We have been meeting people in the communities. The summer when COVID was, people were feeling more comfortable to come out. There was a lot of opportunities to meet new people and to also say, hey, we're the new stewards of public access TV in Minneapolis, and to really share.
This is Democratic Visions.
Yeah. Good to have.
Good to have.
We'll add a chapter to our notebook on community media and access television. Here's producer Jeff Strait.
Democratic Visions, like other access programs around the country, are handcrafted by volunteers. Volunteers assisted by television professionals.
So it's basically picking up like this as well as out like this. I mean, it's like a globe.
Our home is Southwest Community Television and Bloomington Community Access Television, sometimes called BACAT.
But,
Public access TV began in the mid-1980s as part of cable television. It was new back then.
here we go. Where's the action? What's happening? Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to start Jello wrestling soon.
Some of it was kind of curious.
Yeah, but we're going to start out with...
Access TV back then continued to serve free speech and the little guy, and a variety of voices, artists, and minorities that deserve a platform. It still does.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Rebecca, the director here at Speak Mpls, and I just want to thank you all for being here.
We visited Speak Mpls in Northeast Minneapolis in December. The nonprofit Access Center is headed by seasoned media pro Rebecca McDonald.
And so we're a member-based community media center, and we have studio spaces, so not only here in our headquarters in Northeast, but we also have a relationship with New Rules, so we have a pop-up over there on the north side, so you can work on computers, the media lab, use the studio over there.
Since 2020, Speak Mpls has managed the public education and government channels for residents of Minneapolis. Minneapolis is wired to Comcast. MTN, which served that role for 35 years, now focuses on education and training for new media portals like podcasting.
We're the new stewards of public access TV in Minneapolis.
I've worked in commercial media and as a journalist, and what really gets me excited is teaching people how to use equipment, to tell their own stories, to own their own story, and as we like to say at Speak Mpls, speak your truth.
And we have 3 channels that we're programming, so you see out on...
During our visit, Midwest Mix was producing an informational video.
How's this? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
All right, quiet on the set.
I love community media and that the people hold the power of their own narratives. I like to also call it people-powered media.
Thank you.
Midwest Mix supports racially and or gender-mixed educators, writers, performers, and artists.
To do the art, or why is it important in the context?
Alyssa Paris heads the group.
I think Speak Minneapolis is important to groups like mine because the media is fractured. The social media world, we feel so distant and so far apart from each other. And of course, during the pandemic, isolation and feeling apart is a real thing. In this space, we're offered a community that we can sort of skill share with. We can kind of cross wires, and even just observing and learning about how other people are using this space is incredibly informative to me as a new entrepreneur and a new leader and director of an org. I need to be inspired. I need to be challenged and think outside of the box. Every day is about solving mysteries and puzzles and learning things I didn't know the day before. And Speak is just a physical space that I can come to where I'm in proximity to other folks who are taking risks and learning how to do their work better and to tell their stories and get these narratives out there for the world to see. I think it's incredibly important. Speak Mpls creates a sort of a visibility, a voice for folks who maybe aren't going to get interviewed by PBS tomorrow, or aren't going to, be on the news, or maybe aren't going to have 30K followers on social media. And some of them do, absolutely, right? There's some amazing folks here. But for those of us who are looking for a place to get rooted and get started and practice and take risks, I think Speak is providing that for me.
What would happen is that in December, because we're going to be doing the Amplify Minneapolis videos, that would be a special edition.
At Speak Minneapolis, we have a communications manager that works on all of our social media and reaches out into the community to spread the word about what we're doing. And we also have relationships with educational institutions, community organizations.
I feel that too, but I really related to the stuff about COVID. I know going to school personally, I get really anxious. I'll be in a whole lecture hall with tons of people, and you'll just hear constant coughing. And I wish that there were better options about going hybrid or going online, but
and it's just the grassroots, getting out to all the events in the community. We do a monthly newsletter where we have a roundup of all the opportunities that people can engage with us on every month. And really it's about building relationships in the community. So knowing other newspapers, community radio stations, and building those relationships and hopefully creating meaningful partnerships that will help to sustain the work that's being done here at Speak Mpls and also in their respective organizations as well.
Now, are you doing cold calls?
We are not afraid of making cold calls. One of my first jobs ever was doing market research. So that was back in the day, really before we had the internet access to databases. So I was flipping through the phone books, making phone calls, cold calls. So we're not afraid of making cold calls here to other organizations and to connect with folks online. The summer that when COVID was, people were feeling more comfortable to come out, we attended Art-A-Whirl, so we had a booth there. We were at Open Streets. So there was a lot of opportunities to meet new people and to also say, hey, we're the new stewards of public access TV in Minneapolis. It's been more difficult with COVID, so a lot of when we first launched in August 2020 was done virtually. And we're finding that a lot of people just don't know about public access.
Reporting.
Yeah, so
to be able to shift gears that quick.
Yeah, and I don't know if Nate will.
Well, I actually started with Speak in last May. I'm a filmmaker, so I was looking for work in this side of media kind of field, and I've done some work in public access before with SPNN, so I was like, okay, this looks like something I could be interested in. And then I just applied, and then I met Rebecca, and then we just, hit it off. So.
Do you want me to talk about what Speak Mpls?
It's such a great place to use for if somebody's a beginner and they need access to cheap equipment that's not necessarily super hard to use. They could easily come in here and have assistance, and they're able to film any kind of projects they need because we have all the resources for just something small or even big audio equipment, lighting. It's really accessible and affordable, so I think it's great that people can come in here.
New orgs like mine, we're not working with multi-year grants funding yet. So it's important that we have access to high quality tools and spaces, and Speak gives us that, but at a truly affordable rate. The membership rate that we're at right now is $20 a month. That is huge. That is, I can't find that elsewhere. As much as I might want to support a business like this, I can't always afford those memberships for co-working spaces. And so this kind of provides a lot of different components in one space at an affordable rate. So I get access to the materials, I get access to these other thought leaders and thinkers and makers. I get access to classes and education, but I also just get to be a part of a community, and I think that's really important.
My name's James Harris. I'm the Media Labs manager here at Speak Minneapolis, so I help a lot with members who come through and help with their editing or help them out in the studio.
Access professionals like James want to continue their good work, but there are serious challenges.
Cable subscribers are going to streaming. So the revenue that comes in to support community media centers and other public access stations that we like to call PEG, public education government channels, the support for them that comes in is going down. We need to have a sustainable model for going into the future. A lot of the work that we do here at Speak Mpls is about creating relationships with other community organizations to also productions that we do in the community, which we launched recently, which is Speak Mpls Partnerships. So bringing in a new stream of revenue, organizations can hire us to do a production. So our first example of a partnership was with Mpls newspaper, the African newspaper here in Minneapolis, and we hosted a city council forum for them. And so there's ways that you can work with the community to support the needs of other media organizations, for example, and provide additional capacity on production, which access stations do so well. And we're also leaning into doing live streaming. So during the Derek Chauvin trial and now during the Kimberly Potter trial, we're actually working with another media organization to live stream that, and then we're able to distribute that to other access stations, and then also bring in a little revenue for our media partners that want to also live stream that trial. So it's trying to think creatively about revenue streams to support community media, but then also looking at those franchise agreements when they're being negotiated. So currently in Minneapolis, that is happening now as we speak, and making sure that cities and Comcast actually stick to the franchise agreement and support as much as they can through the franchise fees and also the PEG fees that people pay. So if you're a cable subscriber, you pay a PEG fee every month. And those are going down as well with less subscribers, there's less PEG fees. But we definitely have to be creative and working together. We're stronger together. I think that's something that a lot of people learned during COVID. If they haven't learned yet, that's definitely the direction that we're going in. We want to work together with the community to make sure that it's sustainable for the future.
Rebecca, Eden Prairie lost its local newspaper about a year and a half ago. A new one has started up called Eden Prairie Local News. News deserts are happening around the Twin Cities, around Minnesota, around the country. Weekly newspapers, community newspapers are folding. What role do we have in public access to help irrigate the news deserts?
And then looking at Minneapolis, and you have community newspapers that maybe once were flourishing and thriving, that maybe are struggling to make that transition from newspaper to digital. And so one of the things that we recognized at Speak Mpls is that we wanted to help support those newspapers and also thinking about it and expanding it into independent journalists. So we launched a news roundup where we work with local newspapers. So most of the time we're working with smaller community newspapers like North News or Insight News, especially supporting those cultural newspapers. And we launched a newscast where we worked with their reporters, their journalists.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm independent journalist Georgia Fort. Coming up, we'll have reports by Harry Colbert and Brittany Wright, but first, Jakara Hallman at the state capitol.
And our team would go out and film one of their stories that they are currently writing. And then we would provide that video to them that they could use on their website or on their social media. So we recognize that these reporters, newspapers, they're doing great work, but how can we as an access station, as community media, come together to support one another? And so this roundup was a way that we wanted just to test it out, see what people were receptive to, see if there's a demand for that. And of course, people want more local news. They're not trusting the big networks anymore. So we really have to continue really partnering with other media organizations that have similar values.
How does Speak Minneapolis actually market itself?
We did our own research, and power mapping, where we looked at the media ecosystem here in Minneapolis, and we identified and recognized the different newspapers, the different media organizations, and we reached out. We created a database and we sent information about becoming a member here at Speak Mpls. So like I mentioned, Mpls newspaper and Insight News, they're actually members here at Speak Mpls. So they actually became members of our organization before we started working with them on a partnership, like with Mpls newspaper and the City Council Forum, or with the Insight News, where we're working with them on live streaming and working with the reporters on our newscast. So really it was just about helping people understand what public access is, what community media is, and what our vision is, and we just connected with those organizations on our shared values.
What do you have next, Leslie? Oh, here it is. I continue to be involved.
Contact your city for information about the community TV access services in your town. They provide training, video production facilities, and equipment. We're talking media literacy here. And check out the websites of the Alliance for Community Media and the Institute for Nonprofit News. They know what's afoot nationally.
If I can do it, hey, hey, maybe you can too.
Democratic Visions is handcrafted by volunteers from Eden Prairie, Hopkins, Minnetonka, Edina, and Bloomington. Watch us on select cable systems and on our YouTube channel. This is Carol Sundstrom.